Hi, it's Anton from Ember. Let's talk about interviewing. Interviewing people is something that you may do from time to time or every week as part of your job. Regardless of how often you do it, running a successful interview process is challenging. Interview skills are one of the least invested in and underdeveloped areas of leadership. Yet it's arguably one of the most important skills you can develop. Attracting and selecting the best talent has a significant impact on your ability to deliver your goals and priorities. Today, I'm going to share with you my advice for running a great interview process. A quick word of warning, an unstructured interview is the worst predictor of whether someone will succeed in a role. The skill of interviewing really is critical to your success. So first stage, it's all about the preparation. If you've witnessed a great interview in action, they make it look easy. Their secret is they have put in the time beforehand to be prepared. The things that you can do to be prepared are, first up, make sure you know the job you're hiring for. This starts with writing or reviewing the job description. Most job descriptions are a list of duties with no weighting towards prioritization or focus. Review your position description and pick out the top 3 to 5 must-haves. Then draw a circle on a piece of paper and put these 3 to 5 must-haves in the middle. Then draw an outer circle with your could-haves, again aiming for 3 to 5, and then finally an outer circle which is your nice-to-haves, again a maximum of 5. This list could be specific technical skills or competencies, for example communication or teamwork. If you're not sure which skills to prioritize, ask these 3 questions. Number 1, what skills and behaviours do the top performers in my team possess? Number 2, what gaps do I have in my team? And number 3, what's a deal breaker? The better you define this list, the best chance you have of assessing the most important skills. Secondly, prepare the right questions. Interviews are usually highly charged with energy and emotions. The adrenaline kicks in, and before you know it, you're off on a tangent or caught up in a conversation pulling you away from what you actually want to assess. The key here is to prepare specific questions aligned to your must-haves. I'd always recommend that you develop a standard list of questions that you ask every candidate. Why? It develops a great baseline for a good answer, which allows you to directly compare candidates. This will also remove unconscious bias, as every candidate is asked the same question. You'll hear lots of advice about only asking open questions. My advice is to ask specific questions that hone in on what you want to know. Don't make the candidate second guess what you want to know. So for example, tell me about the most recent project you've worked on with React, followed up by, what specifically did you contribute to that project? For a behavioural competency example, such as collaboration, you could ask, tell me about a time you worked as part of a collaborative team, followed up by, what does collaboration mean to you? And finally, allow plenty of time. A thorough interview takes at least an hour. My advice is to book out the 30 minutes before the interview to review the resume again, reflect on the key skills you're assessing, and to review your questions. Put yourself in an interviewing mindset. Park your to-do list at your desk. You owe it to yourself and the candidate to be 100% present and prepared. This will get the best outcome for everyone. I'd also recommend allowing half an hour post-interview. Use this time to review your interview notes and detail your immediate thoughts and feelings. Why should you do this? Because you're human. Our natural tendency is to pull towards people that we have more in common with. If you're interested, I'd recommend a quick search on social identity theory. Now, if you're thinking, I need to put aside 2 hours for an interview, is this guy for real? Yes, I am. 2 hours now will save you weeks and months of heartache when you hire the wrong person. So that's preparation. Now let's talk about the interview itself. So the interview has arrived. You're prepared, you know the key skills for the role, you have your questions ready, you've allowed plenty of time. So what next? Obviously, this is the most important part. You can do all the preparation in the world, but if you fluff your lines here, it was all a waste of time. My top 6 tips for conducting an interview are: number 1, don't fly solo. Interviewing is a team sport played in pairs. What do I mean? You should always have 2 people in the interview room. This has many benefits. A, one person should ask the question and the other scribe. This removes the power dynamic and also allows a much more free-flowing conversation. If you're asking questions, resist the urge to write things down. Focus on the conversation and the candidate if you're the scribe. Note the answers and also any non-verbal cues, including how the candidate interacts with the interviewer. B, it removes bias. It provides 2 perspectives which will neutralize some forms of bias and keep it more objective. C, you can debrief together afterwards to sense check any concerns or points of clarity. Now, I'd recommend you mix this up and switch between scribing and talking through the interview. Divide up the questions. Also, tell the candidate that one of you will scribe and the other will talk. There's nothing more off-putting for a candidate than a silent person in the room writing down everything they say. Tip 2, set the scene. If you're interviewing in person, make sure the room is tidy and distraction-free. Also ensure you won't be interrupted. If you're meeting over video, do the same. Turn off any screens you're not using in both situations. The interview is definitely not a place for your phone, unless you're waiting on a very, very important call. Put it away. If it is out, let the candidate know why it's out. This is just common courtesy. Next, introduce everyone in the room. Explain who they are and what they do in the organisation. Kick off by explaining the process and what you'll be covering in the interview today. This helps to put the candidate at ease because they know more or less what's coming next. Tip 3, 2 ears, 1 mouth. Evidence shows that the more the interviewer talks in the interview, the higher the candidate is going to be rated. And of course this is the case. You're essentially interviewing yourself. Having prepared questions, you will reduce the risk of over-talking as a rule. The candidate should be talking for at least 70% of the interview. You know the saying, 2 ears, 1 mouth. Apply this ratio. Personally, I like to say to a candidate, before we get into the detailed questions for this role, tell us briefly about yourself. The answer the candidate gives here definitely shouldn't be scored. It's a chance for them to let out some of that nervous energy they've been bottling up. If the candidate starts going into way too much detail, politely nudge them back on point. We'll cover that in more detail shortly. Thank you is a great way to handle it. Remember, your role in the interview is to listen. Tip 4, write it down. Like it or not, your memory is flawed, so get everything down on paper. The scribe should write detailed notes for every question. I would also further annotate this if you felt the answer was strong or weak, because this will help you assess it at the end. I also recommend that you make notes by hand. Typing comes off as cold. Tip 5, what questions do you have? An interview is a two-way street. It's about you and the candidate building a relationship. Allow plenty of time for the candidate to ask questions, at least 10 to 15 minutes at the end of the interview. For you, this shows they're prepared and committed. It also gives you some insight into their thinking process. Tip 6, sell the opportunity. Great talent will have many opportunities to consider. Make sure you put your best foot forward when you're answering their questions. This is your chance to promote the opportunity. Explain your vision, your mission, and the role that they will have to play as part of the team. The days of the hiring company holding all the power are long gone. Warning, if you get 15 minutes in and love the candidate, do not start skipping questions. Why? Well, A, you could be demonstrating unconscious bias. Maybe they grew up in your hometown or support the same sports team as you. B, if they are that good, you need to hit all their answers to get a baseline for future interviews so you know what good looks like. Final stage, post-interview. The post-interview process is also critical. The good news is you're almost there. Compile your notes and scores with your co-interviewer. Discuss any areas of concern or where you feel the candidate excelled. Check you're both on the same page. Make a note of your agreed opinion because you'll rely on this later. If you plan to reject the candidate, note down here why. The worst feedback you can ever give to a candidate, apart from no feedback, is you're not a good culture fit. This is a cop-out. If someone has come up short, tell them how their examples lack detail, or specifically where they went wrong. Or maybe they claimed a skill they didn't have, or maybe they had the wrong work experience for you. This is all useful feedback. Conversely, tell them what they did well. This is also useful for their future job search. Bear in mind, this person gave up a few hours of their time for you. The least they deserve in return is detailed feedback. If you plan to make an offer, don't hang around, but also don't be too hasty. I would rarely, if ever, offer someone a role in the interview. The adrenaline's pumping and everyone needs time to reflect on things. My first ever boss in recruitment always told me, let everyone sleep on it before making such a critical decision. Good luck with your interviewing and keep practicing those skills. In my next series of videos, I'll break down interviewing further into specific questions. In the meantime, if you enjoyed this video, hit like, subscribe to Ember, and don't forget to turn on notifications so you won't miss out on any of our future content. Also hit me up on LinkedIn with any questions you've got about your interview process. I'd be happy to help.